And hello, everybody. Welcome to the WSSEA channel. We are your casters for this evening, CB and Tiny Shiny, ready to kick off the first week of the spring Overwatch season.
Yeah, it's gonna look to be a good matchup here. We got the Kennedy Catholic Lancers going up against Burlington-Edison Tigers. The Tigers are a 3-time WSSEA champion team, and they fell short a little bit last time around. They're looking to recapture that former glory and stop the fall from grace and show that they are still a very dominant team here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We have these teams that have been participating in the WSSEA for some time. Burlington specifically, they've been in this rink for the entirety of its reign, which is quite something to think about. Kennedy, they're Lancers, they're coming in. They participated in last season, has had some strong performances in Rocket League, but are looking for their first title in the Overwatch department. And, you know, as it is week 1, this is the time for us to talk about what this season is going to look out in terms of structure and how these maps are going to be played out.
Yeah, today for the maps, we're going to have, so it's going to be best 2 out of 3 every time. We're going to go ahead and kick things off today on Busan as our first control map. If things go a little bit longer after that, we're going to have Midtown, Route 66, and if needed, Coliseo for a push map to end up being a tiebreaker there. But that's going to depend on what happens on Midtown. But Busan going to be where we go ahead and start things off. And also, by the way, you mentioned, the Kennedy Catholic Lancers, how they did find some success in Rocket League. And now that they're looking to try and like recapture that sort of success on the Overwatch side, I know kind of what that feels like. You know, coming from a university where, like, our CSGO team absolutely dominates, but our Overwatch team, people don't always talk about us all that much. So we're trying to get a little bit of notoriety, get out from underneath Big Brother's shadow, so to speak, and try and make some name for ourselves and show that we are also, you know, we can also be the breadwinners in this big family here. So definitely looking forward to that and seeing, you know, what some of the next generation of Overwatch talent might start to look like. Today is going to have to be one of those times where both these teams have to come out and make a statement and show what they're capable of, how they're going to go throughout this season. Are they going to have to be teams to watch? And, you know, who's going to be the dominant team coming out of week 1?
Hey, I got my notepad out. I'm ready to take some notes because we have a lot of matches to be played through the season. This is just week 1, like you said, CB. This is our first look at you, both as casters, as people that are coming in to watch the stream, even as opponents. They're gonna see how you're gonna play. How are you going to show yourselves this season? Are you going to be one of those teams constantly practicing, coming out, giving it your best shot? Or are you gonna be the one that's kind of out there having fun? Hey, nothing wrong with that. I mean, this is all for fun as well as the competitive glory kind of mixed into it. And that's the beauty of high school esports. It's the build-up to all of this flowering esports scene that we're seeing today, both at the collegiate and even upwards to the tier 3, tier 2, and even professional level. This is where it all starts. This is going to be the first look at some of these players as their careers begin to grow.
Yeah, and I gotta say right now, collegiate esports is popping, especially in the Overwatch scene, where you have a lot of these colleges like, you know, Maryville University, you know, Boise State, Harrisburg University, all over the country. There's all these schools that are willing to give out scholarships for esports players across every different title, and Overwatch is no different. Some of those schools also have very, very strong Overwatch teams, so, you know, the standard might be very high, but there's also a lot of other places where you can find yourself. If one of these players might be like a little bit of a hidden gem, something just waiting to bud and grow into something much, much bigger, you might actually be seeing one of these teams being the next generation for those in one of those teams or elsewhere in the collegiate scene, or even potentially going a little bit above and beyond there. Because, you know, there is always the path to pro. There is open division. There is, you know, the contender scene leading up to the Overwatch League. There's plenty to do and plenty to grow in the Overwatch scene. But it starts as soon as you pick up the PC. And it's going to start right here for some of these players.
I was going to start right here. Not only for that, you're gaining competitive experience, maybe some fun real clips along the way. Those are always so much fun to watch. I love those. It shows who you are as a player and the potential that you have to grow from here on out. And, you know, we're talking a lot about the steps beyond this. And there's even a collegiate team that's participating in the upcoming Pro AM tournament with the professional Overwatch teams, which is a crazy thing to think about. That's going to be the potential next step for some of these players that we can see out here today. And honestly, I'm kind kind of sad that I didn't have the same opportunity when I was in high school myself. The year that I graduated, we got an esports club up and running. I'm like, oh, I just missed it. Seeing these players have the chance just makes me feel so happy inside, and that we all have the ability to share this passion for competitive gaming and even take it out here.
Yeah, I definitely concur. There wasn't really all that much of an esports scene when I graduated from high school. We talked about this a little bit in private where I'm actually a lot older than I look, but I know I don't look a day over like 21. There wasn't really much of an esports scene coming out of it when I graduated. So having this opportunity for these sorts of players is a really awesome thing, and I can't wait to see if some of these players do indeed make the most out of it, or if it just ends up being a good, fun experience for everybody involved. But we are kicking things off on our first map here on Busan here. Looks like we're going to be starting off on downtown specifically, where, we might see a little bit of depending on what these guys want to come out here with, we might see a little bit of a dive comp, dive versus dive, maybe some wrecking ball, maybe a little bit of Winston here. What are you feeling here?
I'm always in the mood for some Winston, some wrecking ball. I do love to see it, but there's also some heroes that are just really strong right now. For example, that Reinhardt is certainly is up there. We're seeing Anra on that hero right now as they get ready to go out the gate, but of course it is way too soon to make any calls. We still have a lot of time before those gates open, but I think that we're gonna have to take this one on a map by map basis. Busan can be very composition oriented.
Yeah, 100% here. So we're seeing Burlington go to walk. They are going to indeed walk out with that Reinhardt comp, and on the other side we do have a more Winston dive centric composition here with the Genji to end up following up with the dives here. So it's going to be up to Chara to try and set the pace for how they want to play this one. See who ends up being the first to fall here as both teams kind of start to jockey for position towards the point here.
We're going towards the point, but it leaves the backline completely vulnerable. Burlington, they're losing Bald Rust so early on. They are on the point, though, with only a Kiriko to keep them alive, so they're gonna have to hope that's gonna be enough. They end up losing their Cassidy, too. It seems like this early rotation is just gonna go down in flames as the patience paying off for the Kennedy Lancers. This dive comp is certainly the better one to start out.
Yeah, Kennedy Catholic already coming out with a really big salvo there. That's James Big PP coming out with a couple big cleanup kills there. But it all starts with that early pickoff onto Bald Ross. That's a support player falling very early and no peel, no one there to try and help keep the rest of the squad alive. And then, Yomama inevitably ends up falling as well. It's just like dominoes, one by one. And that dive comp really showing its strengths now as KC Lancers go ahead and take first cap point. But another approach here and another opportunity for Burlington.
Taking out along the side here, wants to get in a good spot with the Winston. So you'll see Anar jumps in really early, but his bubble off from the majority of the healing so far. The approach has been rather lackluster as the remainder of Kennedy have just kind of backed off, given up the space though, and that's okay because James gets themselves in the backline, takes out one at the cost of their tank player. Even trade so far as the point isn't still in control of Kennedy. That could change very soon though, as this Cassidy player, Yo Mama, is going ballistic, hitting those shots when necessary. We will see that clip come through at about 50%.
Yeah, and a bunch of cleanup there as well from Lightem. So really good stuff there from the DPS duo from Burlington. Very much so showing why this school has been so dominant in the past, showing flashes of that prior brilliance. We'll see if they're able to continue to live up to it. They're gonna have the Deadeye for this next fight, but be looking out for that Nano Blade to come out on the other side, or it might go out here onto Chara. We'll see what they choose to go for, but huge wombo combo sure to come out here from KC.
Oh yeah, they got all the resources in their favor. We just need to see how those cards are actually going to be played on the table. The Nano Boost will go into that Winston, like you said. It's a trade out. The Dragon Blade there wants to make it an uneven, barely managing to stay alive. All the healing in the world, though, for James. And still, it doesn't matter. All those slicing and dicing comes up with nothing. Just basically hitting fresh air with that one. It doesn't seem to matter, though. The Nano Boost on Chara bought so much space, and will guarantee that flip back over into Kennedy.
Chara actually got sleep darted there when the Nano went onto them there, so it looks like there was a little bit, first of all, it looks like we're going to have a little bit of a pause there, but I guess I can still go back and recap that last fight there. There was a pretty big sleep dart there onto Chara while they had that Nano Boost available, but didn't get all that much value out of it. But once all of the resources on the side of Burlington ended up being depleted, specifically that coalescence that was being used to keep everybody up in the fight, was once that was gone and that Dragon Blade could actually finally get a little bit of value, get some people low, and the cleanup was there, didn't even really need to invest all that much more. You still had that Primal Rage, and they're still going to have that Primal Rage when this next fight comes around. So that's going to be a big ultimate to look out for that's going to stall out a lot of the time here. Burlington, they were also coming up on quite a few ults of their own. So, if they can manage to get all of their players back in the lobby, that's step one. Step two is going to be execute the plan, which is use these ultimates and recapture the point here.
As I remember correctly, it was really only that Coalescence that ended up getting used there to kind of counter out that Dragon Blade to buy the space. So that's not really an awful situation for Burlington to be in by any means. Losing your tank, though, you're not going to have a Primal Rage. That just means you're not going to be able to stay in the fight nearly as long as you would have liked. But of course, that is going to depend on just how long it takes to get back. I mean, the nice thing about our technical pauses here is that the players themselves have the opportunity to kind of talk about what happened and evaluate, all right, if this is working so far, how are we going to kind of push this forwards from here? But I'm kind of liking the compositions that we're seeing rolling out, CB. It's not your traditional, hard dive that we're used to seeing, but it's more mixing and matching towards these players' comforts.
Yeah, playing comfort picks, especially at this level, can honestly be the best way to show what your strengths are and what you are good at, because a lot of these players, they're not going to be all well versed in like what the actual meta comps are. They might not be the best at what, people are playing particularly at the Owl level, but, maybe they're really, really heckin' good on Zenyatta and they really want to show what they can do with the Discord Orb and, click a few 5 orbs, get a few big volleys in there. And that's definitely going to help get their team to win if they're just able to overpower with just the sheer strength of, their own talents there that they have there. We're seeing a lot of big plays coming up from James on the Genji, so that's definitely something to look for. And I think, Kennedy Catholic, they actually do have the benefit of there being that bit of cohesion, having Chara there on the Winston there. Speaking of Winston, Honor gonna go ahead and swap to the Winston as well, so we got a dive for a dive coming out here.
We got a dive for a dive. Ooh, that was almost spelled disaster. But nope, that Deadeye will hit a whole lot of nothing. Dude here has the most important ultimate in the game, arguably, at this time. That Kitsune Rush will be pushing Burlington-Edison forwards, buys some space. Chara knocking them all out of it, not able to use that ultimate. A really great play from them, but Light manages to find 2 with the Mei, getting in the backline. A nice play to be able to turn it out from them. We're fighting all over the map, CB, but in the end, it does appear there is more blue in the kill feed than red, and have to be a reset from Kennedy.
Yeah, and I think that, again, goes back to the previous fight where they only really invested the Coalescence. They have this wealth of other abilities that they can go out with. They can use the Deadeye, which it looks like they already have another one here. Or no, sorry, that was Sid that popped the Deadeye. They do still have a Deadeye, but they had, they had the Kitsune Rush, they had the Blizzard from Lightem. They have all these tools that they can use to cap the point, while Chara is buying time with that Primal Rage. Everybody else behind them is just falling like dominoes on the point here. So I have to stack this house of cards back up and stop Burlington-Edison from forcing it to crumble under the weight of this Deadeye, but it's actually Omama who crumbles.
And that's it right there. You see the Cassidy vulnerable, you jump on him. No ultimates even used. They weren't given the opportunity to, CB. Kennedy are just going to go in and clean the house on this one. And look at what they're able to build up. They got a Dragon Blade.
Yeah, and that might be enough for a win condition for them here. They are in one-fight territory, and Bald Ross did invest that Coalescence, which, if the percentage was a little bit lower for KC, that might have been a really good investment. You could have bought yourself that, 98% and make it to where you only have to win this one fight to win it. They do still have that condition, but they're going into a Dragon Blade with only a Deadeye, and that Dragon Blade is absolutely massive. That's 4 people gonna fall, and another pause. I don't know if this pause is necessarily gonna be all that impactful, because I think just about everybody on the side of Burlington-Edison is dead as doornails, but hey, once we get back in and stop postponing the inevitable, this should be the win for Kennedy Catholic.
It's impossible to get back at this point. All 5 players have gone down, and yeah, that's gonna just about be it. We're gonna unpause it, go ahead, take us to the next round, just because why not, and we'll go ahead, get Anra back in the game, hopefully, so Burlington will be able to compete with that tank player on their side, and, after getting to see downtown a little bit, analyze how these players are playing, what compositions they are pulling out, Mega Base certainly can call for a change of pace.
Yeah, it's gonna depend entirely on whether or not you have a tank player, because that's what's
Yep.
gonna kind of dictate the comps that you're able to play here. You know, in a perfect world where we go back to what these two teams came out here with, I would say, hey, Mecha Base is a great place to bust out that Reinhardt again. And, you know, the comp that you're playing with the Kiriko and the Moira, you can give that Reinhardt a lot of resources, let him swing his hammer, go nuts, and you might just be able to win off of the sheer cleave damage that he's able to push out there. But that all kind of falls to pieces if you don't have that spearhead here. So we'll, you know, thoughts and prayers going out for Anra there, hoping that they can get back in the lobby, lest they have to try and fight with, you know, a 4v5, which would be an absolute awful thing to do without a tank player. That's just, you know, playing Overwatch with no space would just be absolutely awful.
Yeah.
But, like, go back to like that pre-roll lock days. You remember? Do you play Overwatch 1 before roll lock became a thing?
No, I started right after, and I cannot be more thankful that that was the case, because I saw some not so great things come out of anti-roll lock. Put me in 2-2-2, give me a tank, I will be happy all day long. And you know what? Good news. Anra appears to be back in the lobby with some stable internet. Fingers crossed. As we get ready to head in here, looks like we're going for a bit of a brawl on Kennedy's side.
Yeah, and this is actually a really, really good composition. It's very close to what we would see from a traditional rush comp with that Moira instead of the Lucio, so they're losing out on the speed boost, but they still have all of that sustainability to help keep everybody alive in the fight. That's a lot of healing that can be pumped out from these two, but Anra gonna go ahead and take a quick little nap there.
Anra taking an early nap, but immediately woken back up. Ready to swing that hammer once again. You can see right now that Chara is struggling to buy the space, not really wanting to leap into that death ball that is being run by their opponents. The nice thing here is that you have the ability to drop down to point with your Kennedy. Your support just completely annihilate the tank, so that's essentially a free capture just by playing that positioning alone. Yo Mama did go down a little bit earlier in that fight, however, so you're playing this without Cassidy, but that cleanup is still going to come through. We're fighting this one out in a 4v5 and actually make it a 4v4 because there goes Chara, gets a little bit too aggressive, eventually burned down. The approach on the point will begin for Burlington-Edison, trying to find that target. Looks like it's the Genji. There goes James, and that point will be flipped right back over.
That was a bit of an awkward fight, actually, for Kennedy Catholic. They had the supports down on the low ground, capping the point, which was great. They got the early cap there, 24% thought off of that. But Chara was way up on the high ground, constantly fighting, putting up more cleave damage, and trying to be a constant presence. They couldn't get them the healing that was needed to keep that monkey up alive in the fight. And actually going to fall again from a fire strike from Anra, so that's going to force a reset. And then Burlington-Edison, they're actually going to pass that 24%, take the lead here. And it might even go a little bit more if James gets caught out here.
James and Side are really far up there. It's not either of them, though. Somehow Corbin ends up going down. I don't even know how that could have happened. I think your mama is on the flank of a lifetime, and it's about to get so much harder because there's an Earth Shatter available for Anra. I know you want to use it. I'm looking at you, Anra. We know what you want to do. There's no bubble. You can just go ahead and wait till those players decide to peek through that choke. Honestly, might not be the wisest decision at the time. We're going to hold it out for a bit longer, eventually wanting to take that engage. We're very indecisive making decisions, but too bad. Honor made it for you. Down you go. Deadeye on top of it. And that is going to be a nice play from Burlington. Gain a lot of time on this objective.
Yeah, that indecisiveness heavily favors Burlington because they have the cap percentage that entire time. So while Kennedy Catholic is just going back and forth trying to find out which way they want to approach, what they want to do, they're able to just, you know, hold on, gain up some cap percentage, get ever closer to that one-fight territory now. So this should be a win for Kennedy Catholic because they're going to have a lot of ultimates here, but they're going to have to hold for a very long time, whereas Burlington-Edison is going to be in one-fight territory.
Oh, it's certainly Kennedy's fight to lose right now, but they're certainly losing it because Light had a stellar blizzard against two with icicles to the dome. What turned out to be looked so winnable for Kennedy just went down the drain, courtesy of Lightem, who comes up with 4 through that fight, and there's not going to be anybody back in time to be able to contest this one out, and we're heading all the way to round 3.
I do want to give a quick shout out there to Cobain, who is hitting a lot of sleep darts on Anra there, making that Reinhardt feel a little bit narcoleptic and kind of a non-factor for a lot of that fight there. But the rest of the time that was spent throughout that point was just, you know, Kennedy Catholic being very indecisive, wasting a lot of time, not really, you know, committing to a decision, going for a plan, trying to execute it. And critically, in that fight where they had the ult advantage, they don't get the chance to invest that Dragon Blade. You know, you never want to like over ult. You don't ever want to use more than you need to win the fight, but you also don't want to use less than you need to win the fight, because then you just don't win the fight. And you know, all of that time that you wasted does end up coming back to bite you, though. So you know, a little bit more decisiveness there would have definitely been the play there for Kennedy Catholic, not only in choosing to act, but also choosing to make those investments. But with how effective that dive comp was on downtown, they should be able to get something going here as long as they can continue to support James and help them find more and more of those picks.
And that's going to be the thing here. You're also running into a Cassidy who is flaming hot right now. Kennedy Catholic are up early on to 1. They want to push that advantage further. They're struggling to. This May is putting a wrench in their plans, or rather, a bit of a freeze ray, because Onra just is moving forwards. Everyone's so slow. The Reinhardt's fast, and everything's a nail, and you got a giant hammer. First cap going to Burlington.
You said Lightem, that May was putting a wrench into the equation. Honra says, how about I throw a hammer in there too? And I'll take a nice easy 4K. Yeah, absolutely. That's a clip. We'll go ahead and post that one on Twitter. Throw that to all the people in the Discord threads we got here. And they're actually coming up on an Earth Shatter. Also, Yamama has swapped over to the Bastion, so Chara is going to be in for even more of a world of hurt, especially without an Ana to help keep you alive.
And this poor Reinhardt player is just not going to have a good time. The whole goal of Burlington's comp is to make the enemy tank miserable, and Yo Mama and Lightem, they are succeeding, not only with just the tank, but the whole team, as they just, once again, are going to wipe this one absolutely clean of their opponents and potentially get a stagger onto James if they're going to chase him all the way back to spawn. Oh, nope, we'll get healed. Don't have to worry about that one.
Kennedy Catholic, they're trying to find an answer now. They're making a lot of swaps. They've swapped over off the Ryan onto a Sigma, off the Cassidy onto a Junkrat. You know, we called that James a little bit ago. They're now on the Reaper instead of the Genji. They're coming up on a lot of ults, so they should be able to get a flip here if they're careful. And that is going to be a huge Death Blossom.
Oh, it is huge. You got a Nano, and the Earth Shatter was dodged. James just came up with 4 in that fight and had the Nano to do it. Hefty investment, but the swap's certainly well worth it.
Be on the lookout for Lightem, though, to come out here with that Blizzard. That's going to be the big ultimate on the side of Burlington-Edison, and Chill has to try and avoid getting too chilly and get that sound barrier online in order to be able to counter it. So, you know, gotta get that ult percentage up and get it up fast, because that is Burlington-Edison's win condition in this next fight, is effective use of this Blizzard.
And with Lightem's previous track record with this ultimate, I am expecting a full team popsicle party, honestly. We're ready to see this one come out, but Chill has critically worked themselves up to the sound barrier at the time, and Lightem is going to be there to follow up on it. Has to be everything out from the tank. A huge commitment. Both support ultimates as well for Burlington-Edison. Try to turn this one around. They will be able to get that cap flip back over, but it's only a Reinhardt and a Kiriko against a Reaper and a Moira and a Sigma. Not a great place to be in this outnumbered match, but get this point control as much as you can. Gain that percentage and okay, maybe even get a player off of the back of it. Chara critically, though, almost up to this Gravitic Flux. Lift them straight up to the sky, trying to slam them back down. Won't get that elimination they looked for. Just bought the time, bought the space, but for which team? I think it's Burlington, because they were able to walk straight forwards, no tank to worry about, and just like that, CB, we're at 90%.
Yeah, this is pretty much disaster territory for Kennedy Catholic, and if they're even going to be able to get a touch, they're only going to have a Riptire to stake their entire claim on, but it looks like, yeah, no one is going to be within the same hemisphere of that point right now. That's Burlington. After looking really shaky on downtown, coming back, clapping back hard on Mecha Base and on Sanctum there to essentially, you know, reverse sweep that little control point, end up taking our first point here. And this is a best 2 out of 3, so already putting themselves on match point. Big plays coming out from James and from Onra there, you know. And also shout out to Onra for getting stable internet. Finally, that was the win condition for the fight, or for the team there.
Yeah.
Very well done there. Excellent stuff there coming out from Burlington. But KC, they also have some things that you want to look out for here.
They certainly do. And I think that the difference that in the maps was primarily with the compositions. When Honor was on that Reinhardt, the overall whole of Burlington just looked more cohesive. They looked comfortable, like they knew what they were going to do, what was happening. When that Winston was in the play, you could argue if it was because of the internet or just something they haven't practiced a whole lot. It was nowhere near that level. And I think that's where we're going to see this match head, is that who is going to have to play the other's game. We saw at the very end here on Sanctuary that Kennedy, they made so many frantic swaps to the Reaper, to the Junkrat, the Sigma, just to try to hope that something could happen, but in the end, they're playing their opponent's game, not forcing them off of what they want to run. And as we head into Midtown, you're going to have a little bit more freedom of what you would like to try out. But being match point for Burlington-Edison here, I don't see too much changing in their win condition.
Yeah, this is a map that can very much so still heavily favor some of those Rhine compositions. Second point is going to get a little bit dicey with that high ground, and you might actually see, Chara make that swap back over onto the Winston in order to get some of that value there. But it's going to be, first you have to get there. That's what the key thing is here. But it actually looks like both of these teams are going to go for something a little bit more Sigma-esque, if you will. They're both playing Sigma.
Hey, you know what? I'm a Sigma main. I'm here for it. Give me the boulder throw in space, Grandpa, any day. That will make me happy. Seeing this on the field, that's what this tells us. We're going to go for more of a poke-oriented style. The only person deferring from this is probably going to be Lightem up on the Tracer, which could add an interesting kind of backline harassment component to this comp.
Yeah, I was very impressed with Lightem on the Mei. So, Tracer is a very, very different hero from the Mei, though. You have more, you're more of a flanker. You have to be a little bit better with your tracking. It's more of a hit scan type thing, whereas Mei, you put in some of those icicles. And we were seeing Lightem coming out with some excellent headshots with those icicles, some pristine Mei right clicks. We'll see if that's what, if Lightem can transfer that ability to another hero, something with a much, much different skill set. Similar situation as well for James on that Soldier 76 there. Yamama, we did see Yamama on the hit scan before, so this should be very familiar, but James going from Genji to Soldier, that's a little bit spicy. Speaking of spicy though, Sid gonna go ahead and take down Lightem to go ahead and kick this off.
Yeah, but end up losing their own life in the process, so right for a trade, the Trace will be back much, much quicker, and the split approach, look at James, gotta run for the hills through the subway car. As Anra has to drop down to the high, from the low ground to kind of defend their team, give them that shield. The positioning's a little bit off. He's trying to find an angle of approach, but that might just be it. Nice Bionade from Corbin to really open that one up, but in the meantime, Lightem has returned to the fight with Baldross to get two out on their own. It isn't looking too hot for the defense, however, they just are simply outnumbered, outmatched in the health pools, and we'll get at least some progress on the point.
There might be a contest here from Oh, never mind. Sorry, I was going to say from Lightem, but Lightem actually did swap back over onto the Mei, so a little bit more in their wheelhouse, a little bit more comfortable. We're also going to see a Ramatra swap there from Anra. I'm curious to see how this ends up playing out, because Ramatra and Sigma are very similar in a lot of regards. A little bit more range and a little bit more pokiness from the Ramatra versus the utility of the Boulder, but if you do start to get that Annihilation up, then this could be a really big pick. You have a lot of AoE damage and a lot of point presence that you can hold here with this comp from Burlington-Edison here.
Sigma just kind of has to run away from Ramatra when he's in that good old Nemesis form. Not a great spot to be, and not to mention Lightem too. Not only are they able to find pickoffs like that one onto James, they also set up these walls perfectly behind opponents for them to be pummeled into the ground. But speaking of pummeling into the ground, there we go. Slam down, huge flux onto 4, but the final blows just aren't coming through. Coalescence up just in time for Baldross. Actually, he's gonna get aggressive with this one. Not heal their team. I might be cursing him out a little bit, but it doesn't seem to matter though. The tac visor was too much damage to handle anyways, and this fire truck gonna keep moving straight through the Midtown tunnel.
The follow-up was a little bit slow, but it did come out. Once that tac visor came out, it was curtains there for Burlington-Edison. That was one of the juiciest gravitic fluxes that I've ever seen from Chara. Absolutely incredible stuff there. I was really worried, though, that, the Mei with the ice block, the Kiriko with the Suzu, and the that fade from the Moira there, that everybody was going to be able to get out with their lives and get healed back up. But once all that is out, no, it's time to go in. We go in with the ults here. Dude's going to go ahead and pop that Kitsune Rush, though, to answer back, and that's going to force a lot of positioning to come out from Kennedy Catholic.
They're forced straight back to the Midtown Tunnel, and the Transcendence had to come out just to keep players alive and fighting. Still 10 players up on the battlefield, but the ultimate advantage heavily in favor of Burlington on this defensive position, and they were going to force the retreat for Kennedy for the time being.
This is where Burlington can really dig their heels in and make it a nightmare for Kennedy Catholic to try and get this cart that last couple of feet into the checkpoint there. They can hold this high ground. They'll have the Blizzard. They'll have another Coalescence. They have the Annihilation, which that's essentially a free fight win. Yep. Chill is swapping over onto that Lucio right now, and they're far, far away from that sound barrier, so you're not going to have anything defensive to try and stave off the pressure from either of these ults. Gravitic Flux is going to come out, and a Deadeye to follow. That is a huge Gravitic Flux, even juicier than the last. It finds 3. That ult advantage doesn't mean anything when you don't get
No.
a chance to use it.
No, that was a beautiful combo, CB. One that I actually haven't seen in a hot minute. That Sky Noon. I just love that as a Sigma player. It's so pretty, and you even get to go to the next section of Midtown here in the Grand Central Station, where thankfully everybody from Burlington has respawned. They will have that close hold and a plethora of ultimates to defend with.
Yeah, that Sky Noon off the field. Now Sid does a little bit of skeet shooting, and that caps them the point now, but they do have to stand and deliver. Like you said, they had that ult advantage. All the ults I mentioned in the last fight are still online and then some, so it has to be on Burlington to try and initiate with some of these. They have to try and pop one now while they know they have the advantage, and it's going to be the Cole that starts it off.
I got the Cole, but nobody's really able to peek with the tack visor on the height. I mean, James doesn't really want to peek either. I don't blame him. You got 31 HP. Don't want to work with that, but there's a flanking Ana that would be much more concerning to deal with. And there we go. There's everything coming out. Actually, only 2 ultimates, which is pretty good discipline to be shown from Burlington.
Yeah, you do win that with just the Cole and the Deadeye, which is very good discipline. The problem now, though, is that Chill is going to have that sound barrier for your Annihilation or your Blizzard, so you have to try and track that, understand that that ultimate might be in play, and stagger that out. If you're Burlington, you have to go in with the Annihilation early and maybe follow up with the Blizzard once everybody has, tried to regroup after that first ult comes out, or you just have Lightem click someone's head and find a pick is always a possibility. Looks like the Flux is going to kick it off, though.
Flux and no ice block for Lightem, so the Blizzard isn't even an option, CB. It's gonna have to be up to this Annihilation and Kitsune Rush, but no, not even gonna be something that comes out either. The initiation simply is not there because Kennedy seemed to be light years ahead of their opponents, starting these fights out on their own terms, and look how far it's able to get them.
Yeah, it's getting them so much progress here. The Blizzard is gonna come out now from Lightem, but who is around to be the beneficiary of this? It is James actually on the other side, gonna go ahead and pick up some kills here. Spawn advantage is favoring Burlington-Edison, so they can afford to stagger this out a little bit more, but that Blizzard might be a little bit of a misinvestment there if Anra can't find more pay dirt. Does inevitably find James, who's trying to run for their life there, but can't quite get out. Just trying to zip, zap, zig and zag, get out of there alive. Doesn't actually make it out. They still have the Annihilation if they want to go ahead and try and hold on to that, and they're coming up on another Coalescence and another Deadeye now, so they've kind of gone full circle back to where they are now again in the advantage.
You're still at this, but the Annihilation still yet to be seen. This better be the biggest Annihilation in the history of Overwatch for how long this has been held on to. You give it a Kitsune Rush, it could be even better. You're rushing forwards, your opponents are backing off. Nobody wanting to contest the fury of the Fox. Onra continues the poke, kind of out on the side. It doesn't even need to use the Annihilation at this point. Just, I love the discipline from Kennedy to wait that ultimate out, get the Deadeye up on the high ground, chunk down Onra low enough, and keep your life. Not too shabby overall. These trades, though, they're starting to go the other direction. Even for now, but Lightem getting in the mix of things certainly is going to change that around. This tank player, the only one left standing. Yes, we finally saw the Annihilation, but it got fluxed and nothing came as a result. Lightem, though, is going to be the only one surviving, the only survivor to hold down the fort.
When these fights get really, really scrappy, it's almost always going to favor the team that has that spawn advantage. When you have Burlington-Edison, you have Lightem being the last one standing there, and now everybody else is back. Honor swapped over to the Orisa. They're back in the fight. You've got the Kiriko, you've got the Moira, everyone back in the fight, and you're coming up on this Blizzard. So once again, I'm looking at Chill to try and build up this this sound barrier, or for the rest of the team to just deny the access to this Blizzard at all by getting an early pickoff onto Lightem here.
You'd like to see it out, and Side's gonna be the one to do it with a nano boost on them. Got Javelin still looking for that target. I love this space forgot the word, but we're going in with the sound barrier. Straight into the Blizzard, though. 4 frozen up, make it 5, actually, as Lightem might as well be the one to turn it around, able to buy a bit of time for their team to come back, but being the sole player standing once again might not just be enough here, CB. You're going to have staggers coming in. Bald Rush with that Lucio, you can buy time, as there's Yo Mama with a pickoff of their own. Certainly not over. It might have just been Lightem saving the day for their team, but the rest of their teammates have to follow through on it, and Onra on the Doomfist is certainly the one to do so. Last one standing, there goes Side, and they were not going to see this fire truck reach the final destination, just shy. About 86.35 meters on a third point, not too shabby at all.
Yeah, the fire truck doesn't reach its destination. It must have been trying to go into the spawn to put Lightem out, because Lightem has been on fire for a lot of this series so far, especially on Busan earlier. Been looking phenomenal on the Mei, and again, that is kind of a hero play that comes out from them towards the end of that fight there, where, you know, everyone else is just about dead, but investing that Blizzard and being able to find 2 pickoffs there before ending up losing your own life, that still buys you enough time and enough leeway for the rest of your teammates to come out from spawn, find the cleanup, get some value, make some things happen. And one of the key pickoffs, by the way, was the Ana. You know, Lightem able to take out Cobain on that Ana, so a lot of the healing gone. There wasn't enough sustain for KC to keep it going, so Burlington looked pretty stalwart on that defense there. They might, you know, be able to take this whole series now. They did get themselves a pretty nice win condition there, about halfway through point C, though, so definitely doable, definitely winnable for them going forward. We'll have to see, you know, if KC is going to be looking a little bit more ironclad on their defense here. They're also going to opt for a Sigma comp, and interestingly enough, a small Swedish man, Torbjorn, going to go ahead and set up a turret and potentially make things miserable if Lightem decides to stick on that dive-centric proposition there with that Tracer and the Doomfist.
Yep, lesson number 1 for Torbjorn players: you hammer anything and everything. Make sure it's all fixed up and ready to go. I mean, having the Torbjorn here, in all seriousness, that turret's going to be a thorn in the side for Lightem and Arnra specifically. There's a lot going on here on the attacking side. Basically, this Pharah is an interesting one to look at. You don't have a Mercy pocket, especially walking in to a hit scan, and the Torb turret can be a little iffy at times. You need to be mindful of the positioning. Moving from the low round can be difficult, but if you find players like Side caught out like that, it could almost be the win condition. Couldn't quite confirm the elimination, though, and there goes your mama. It was pretty inevitable with where that positioning ended up going. So you're relying on everybody else to be the ones to follow up on it. Find a coordinated target to dive on. It doesn't seem like that this is the same Burlington-Edison that we've seen on the Reinhardt comp. Just have not found the one person to just say all lights out on and go straight in. They're just staggering in the process.
Yeah, there doesn't really seem to be a coherent win condition for the composition that Burlington-Edison is coming out with. It looks kind of like a half-hearted dive, and they're going to actually go ahead and swap on it, so no heart being put into that dive anymore. They're back over onto the Reinhardt, where things might start to look a little bit more favorable for them. On the other side, by the way, I want to highlight Cobain, who has been pretty heads up with a lot of the sleep darts thus far, and is also able to, you know, force Yamama off of that Pharah. Not gonna let them stick around on that flying character when you have the hit scan in the back line there. And Lightem is having a very tough time on this Tracer. I have to think maybe swapping back over to the Mei might be the play here, because that will contribute a little bit more to the mission that this Reinhardt wants to go for. But it is actually going to be a Junkrat swap that comes out instead.
And the Junkrat here looking to just spam down the choke point, maybe get somebody off of RNG. That's what I'm thinking right now, but you're walking into so many ultimates from Kennedy, and it's not super likely. You got a rallying Brig, that will do certainly something, you would hope. But Chara is doing way more on the Sigma. These gravitic fluxes have been so incredibly impactful on these fights, but a lot of ultimates had been used just to get that one win out and give time for their attack to build some of their own.
I do think that's worth it, though, because you hold on to the Transcendence. You get a big combo, a big Gravitic Flux into a Molten Core. The floor is lava, and I'm slamming you right back down into it. You know, taking a hot little swim there. And again, more composition swaps going to come out from Burlington-Edison. This is the kind of thing that you do when you don't really know how to approach what you're being faced with. You know, you don't know how to crack this puzzle that's in front of you. So they don't really have the answer. They're looking to just try and brute force it with some of these hero swaps and some of these comfort picks. You have to be looking at some value to come out of this Kitsune Rush, but you're just going to go ahead and find a nice rocky grave courtesy of Chara.
Yeah, you don't like to see that accretion, but maybe Anra, you got their 4th take of the match. I mean, 4th time's the charm, apparently. That must be the new saying, because Anra is able to laser these people all the way down, and finally, some ground gain from Burlington-Edison. We're struggling for a while, but it does not appear that there's going to be a recontest at this time. Looking to just get everybody back in the fight, take that little engagement outside this choke.
James may need to swap off of this Torbjorn now, though, because I don't think it's going to get all that much value on the defensive side now that Burlington-Edison are completely off of anything resembling a dive hero. There's no more Tracer, there's no more Genji, there's no more Doomfist for your turret to be peppering down and just kind of building passive charge off of. Now you kind of have to go into the Zarya, who is happy to just put up a bubble and get herself some charge from your turret. Thank you for coming. Give me some more energy, and I'll just laser your team down in response. And that might be what ended up happening there. Anra did get a lot of kills there towards the end, so gotta double check that one. We weren't watching what was going on the Zarya screen, but there is a Graviton Surge and a Riptire that they might not even need to use if they just keep finding more pickoffs like that.
I mean, this is great. Look at that flowering ultimate economy on the side of Burlington right now. They got 4 in the bank. You can just grab Dragon everybody. That's it. It's over. That's how that combo works. And they do keep losing Dude early on, though, and that's been a major setback so far. And, the item falling shortly after it, you just need to either get out or take this quick route back to spawn, but we got ourselves another pause, and if this time, if it ends up being Honora, that would be absolutely devastating to lose that Graviton Surge.
It does not look like it's Honora, actually. It is going to be Yamama that ends up disconnecting, so losing out on the Dragon Strike, but fortunately, you are still going to have the Riptire that you could combo the Graviton Surge with, and, with the information that we know, I think that might be the better option, because you won't have to go into that Transcendence if Chill is able to build it up. They're a mile away from it, so might not be a factor either way. But that is a reasonable counter to a Grav Dragon combo. So if they were able to stall things out long enough, get Chill that ultimate, that would be a win condition. But you can't transcend a Riptire; that'll just blow everyone up around you, and then you're left there, really awkwardly looking around you at the bodies of your teammates, staring down, 5 angry guys. All ready to just run you over. Not a situation that you really want to find yourself in as a backliner. Trust me, I know what it's like to be the last one alive as a poor defenseless Zenyatta. It's no way to live your life. Awful, awful stuff there. Hopefully, as Yamama comes back, we're able to get this action going here, because it is starting to get a little bit interesting. It's starting to get a little bit spicy here. We had Burlington finally cracking the code on point A, getting most of the way through point B, or at least halfway through point B, before getting stalled out courtesy of just a Deadeye from KC.
And, I think that's been kind of a reoccurring pattern that I've seen from Burlington, is that they take a bit to get going. It's like they're trying to assemble the bus, and then when they finally get the wheels on, it almost seems like it's too late, but they're able to get to their destination just on time. And we saw that in Control, where they had a really rough time on downtown, pulled it together, and looked great on the final 2 points. Saw it here on Midtown. They got kind of rolled through on that second and even the first objective a little bit, found their stable ground on the third. So keeping that in mind, it's not always the greatest place to be in, especially in Overwatch. You want to have as much time as possible on the clock, but in a situation like this where you have a set marker to get to, it's not the end of the world. You're going to have that opportunity, and several of them, push them through. Realistically, CB, if we get a team wipe here, we can expect to see the fire truck roll through that second point, which would be absolutely big for Burlington. But I mean, all the meanwhile, Kennedy, they're still fighting for their lives here. This is still match point. It is a best of 3 scenario, and they're looking pretty darn good while they're doing it. They're only getting caught out in these small moments, but the small signs of weakness are ones that Burlington has been doing such a great job taking advantage of.
Yeah, they're kind of like one of those final bosses in a game here where they have 2 health bars, and like once you clear out the first one, their attacks get more frantic, they do more damage. It's so much harder to dodge. So it just gets all the more chaotic. You really got to like beat Burlington down for a little bit, and then they come back twice as hard and roll you. And that seems to be what's going here, but KC, they kind of have a point where they might have stopped it. They might have stopped the bleeding just a little bit here. So if they're able to, I mean, you mentioned a team wipe. I think it might actually end up being Burlington that ends up getting team wiped here once we finally get the unpause here, because they did lose both of their DPS players, unless they try to go for a crazy play and invest the Graviton Surge, toss an Ana nade into it, and hope that Onra can just go ahead and laser everybody down with high charge and find some pickoffs that way. But I think you'd have to be pretty insane to go for a play like that, and you'd have to, you'd have to know for one thing that KC doesn't have any ultimates of their own. They're getting close to a Gravitic Flux and a Molten Core, so you already don't really have that. You gotta have to not be afraid of that possibility. And also maybe have a contingency plan for it. You could even nano Onra if you really wanted to get that silly with it, and leave dude to just kind of heal everything up and hope for the best. But Yeah, it's this is definitely looking to be the fight, at least with where we stand, is definitely looking to
Yeah.
be KC favored here, but it seems we might be waiting a little bit longer to get Yamama back in the fight here. So might be a
Oh,
minute. Actually,
you say that and they joined the game! Sammy! That is great. You have some future predicting powers that, just summoned them back into the game, which is great because that means we can get back on track here in a second. But, man, if we're going to use these future predicting powers again, you said that this fight pretty much going to be over. But in terms of the next one, we're coming back in. We talked about what could be on the side of either teams, where those wish conditions can truly stand. With the timing, what do you think is going to be the best move for the attackers here?
it is going to have to be that grab and Riptire combo because Yamama has swapped off of the Hanzo onto a Cassidy now. So that ultimate, because of the disconnect, would already be off the table, but now it's basically solidified as being off of the table. But they're going to have to weather the storm coming out from Chara and James because, again, we saw that combo that they used with the Gravitic Flux into the Molten Core was an absolutely fire combo. Pun definitely intended thanks to that Molten Core there. They don't really have anything defensive. They don't really have a contingency plan for that, so it's kind of up to who wants to be the initiator, who wants to spill first blood here, and, start the momentum there and make it stick.
And, so far that's been Kennedy. They've been the initiators this map. Granted, they are in defense, so it's much more difficult to have that position in mind, and you don't even have the high ground to be able to do this, so it's already a great spot for Burlington to be in. They just gotta make it come true. The Gravitic Flux already looking to put that to an end. Huge Suzu from Dude, enough to save their team, but not themselves. A lot being dumped into this engagement, and it is looking like the defense are going to hold on to this one a little longer, and this is exactly what I wanted to happen, CB. I wanted to see this dry fight come through.
It wasn't. It was pretty dry for Burlington. Yeah, they do manage to hold on to all of their ultimates and weather the storm from that Gravitic Flux. But the problem now, Chill has a Transcendence now, so you really have to be heads up with either your Riptire or your Ana nade from Bald Ross in order to get some value out of this Graviton Surge. If that's the route that you choose to take, you still have the Kitsune Rush to try and force some positioning with, and Anra looking to force a little bit of positioning and just try and find a pick. Does find Cobain, but loses their own life for it.
Oh, and that's terrible. Look how much time is left. And you used the Riptire there, CB. Chill still has the Transcendence. You don't gotta grab. You got 10 seconds to get back on the court. This is just going all wrong in the last couple of seconds. Burlington, the ball was in their court, but they have to hope a Nano Junkrat can turn it around through a Transcendence with no supports, though. It simply is not gonna happen. Kennedy made a statement this round and said, no, we are taking this one all the way to map number 3.
That's going to be a big clap back there from KC. The thing is, again, that I've talked about time and time again, is that the ultimate advantage doesn't mean anything if you're not given a chance to use the ultimates. If you are, making positional errors or being forced into situations where it's suboptimal to use these ultimate abilities, or the other team is just taking the initiative. They're finding, these big juicy Gravitic Fluxes, slamming you back down into a Molten Core and just melting your whole team down to ash. It's like, what are you gonna do? You're not gonna toss a Graviton Surge out while that's about to happen. No, you have to be the initiators, and it's right now. It was KC that were being the initiators there. So we're at 1 apiece. We are going to go into our third map, which let me double check. I believe it is going to be Route 66. That is going to be So this one's going to be kind of interesting actually, because we might start to see some more of those dives come out on first and second point there. Because it is one of those maps where we do end up seeing a lot of Winston play. Sigma, that we've also seen from these teams, can be very effective en route.
Yeah.
Reinhardt, I might steer clear of for the most part, at least until we get to the third point. But, it is conducive to some of the things that we've seen both of these teams do very, very well on. So at this point, it's kind of a toss-up. It's really anyone's ballgame here.
In theory, yeah, that's the purpose of map 3. It's the tiebreaker between the first 2 rounds, and personally, I'm honestly a little favorite more towards Kennedy in this map. You just came out with that Sigma composition. You were able to hold so incredibly well on Midtown defense. Route 66, this is a great spot to play that Sigma. Bring that Torbjorn back out on the Zenyatta, and I think that's been a huge difference that we haven't really touched on too much, is that support line. When you're running the Ana Zen versus the Moira Kiriko, major difference in utility that they have at their backs. And when you're playing at these ranges, these poke little oriented phases like this, that's where that Ana and Zen really can shine through.
Yeah, you get all the damage from the Discord Orb, you get all the utility from the Sleep Dart and the Anti-Nade, and you know, the problem with that backline is that it's very susceptible, very diveable, very, you know, it's a very tantalizing target for a Winston to just jump right on top of and zap to pieces. But if you're not running that composition, if you're running a Sigma poke comp where everything's playing at range, you're totally safe. You can sit from like 60 miles back, plink away with the Zen orbs left and right, stay scoped in as Ana, hit all those shots, keep your team topped up, build up nanos over time, and just, you know, play the game, just be in your lane, moisturized, flourishing, don't have to have a care in the world. It's one of the best ways to play Ana, speaking as an Ana one trick. Yeah, it's one of the best ways to play that hero. You don't have to constantly be fearing for your life. You don't have to worry about the Tracer, you know, in your backline trying to take duels with you. You don't have to worry about a Winston or a Wrecking Ball trying to jump on top of you and turn you into a pancake. Like, those aren't things that are you even have to, like, you know, weigh on your mind about. So you're getting all of that value and all that utility. And on the other side, you know, you mentioned the Moira and the Kiriko. The benefit of that backline is the exact opposite. They have the survivability. They can fade out, they can swift step out, but, like, you don't need to use that. Like, you're not getting a whole lot out of that. You have the Suzu, which is huge value. You have the Kitsune Rush, which is a phenomenal ultimate, and you can get some value out of the Coalescence, but overall, that backline doesn't really have as much utility as, you know, that Zen Ana, and we're seeing the advantage start to come out in favor of Kennedy Catholic off of that, as well as a few other key things that have been going their way.
And those are things that we're actually going to be able to identify and talk about in just a bit. But we're going to head to a short break before we head into our third and final map. So don't go anywhere. The conclusion to Week 1 Overwatch is right around the corner. And welcome back to the WSSEA Overwatch 2 Week 1 broadcast. We've made it all the way to map number 3 here. Is it going to be Kennedy or Burlington-Edison to close this one out? Both have had a strong showing on a map apiece, but this is where it's all going to end.
Yeah, it's like you said, both squads have shown quite a bit. They've shown themselves to have some strength. They've shown themselves to have a little bit of weaknesses here, some things that can be ironed out throughout the season, but a pretty strong basis for both teams here. But in a 2 out of 3 situation, only one of them can win. We did not have a draw on Midtown, so this is where it is all going to be decided. Which of these teams is going to get that early launch pad towards their championship aspirations here? It's all going to depend on what happens here on Route 66, which we should be getting started with here very shortly. And like we were talking about, it does heavily favor some of the compositions that we've already seen from these squads in the past. That Sigma and that Torb combo, that could be a really, really strong composition to run on the defensive side.
Oh, yeah. And from my understanding, though, it does look like that our sides are going to be swapped. So Chara will be starting on the attack. Oh, wait, no, it is on the defense. So Kennedy is on the defense. Wait, I'm so confused. I'm getting my brains all mixed up today. Chara, team, defense, Kennedy. There we go. Those are the words that wanted to come out of my mouth. It wasn't even the right ones, but anyways, we do get to see who is rolling out on what, and we're actually seeing none of the things we were theorizing about before. Orisa is going to be making an appearance.
Interesting. We did see Anra swap to the Orisa briefly on the last map there. I don't think it really got all that much value. They ended up swapping that over to the Zarya, which was what ended up finally cracking the code there for them. So I think Anra might be a little bit hesitant to try and mirror the Sigma here. That might not be something that's in their wheelhouse. But Chara, very comfortable on the Sigma, in fact, as you can clearly see. They are going to go out on this, but there is a little bit of a discord in their composition, and I'm not talking about the one that Chill's got. You've got James going back onto the Genji without any sort of dive tank there, so James is going to be kind of a lone wolf here, a little lone soldier trying to find some value and clean up a low HP target in the backline. So we'll see if there's enough damage that's going to be able to come out from the rest of the team, or from some of this poke damage for James to find a pick-off here.
Be a lot on the poke, but Arm's gonna take this one so close up that Yomama can just come right up, swoop up those final blows, and that is game. Well, not game, but it is first fight that we're gonna see seeing here on Route 66, and that's the advantage of running the Orisa. Completely nullifies Sigma's ability to play at poke.
if you're Kennedy Catholic, I mean, you definitely would like that to be game. It would be that easy to just walk home with the win here, but, you know, they're going to have to do that a few more times and be a little bit more consistent than just that one here. I think Kennedy Catholic, they're hanging around near the spawn. They might be contemplating making some swaps, and they do actually swap over off that Sigma and onto the Winston. So now we got a little bit more of a traditional dive comp here. James going to have a little bit of backup, not going to be a lone wolf in the trenches any longer. Big early sleep does come out onto side, and that's going to be the initiation for Chara.
As the initiation, but barely has enough health to be able to continue that forwards. Onra going down is going to be incredibly valuable elimination as this fight continues to go on. I say fight, but it's more of the remainder of Burlington running for their lives, trying not to get pancaked by an angry monkey.
An angry monkey with a nano that is potentially able to be invested there by Cobain, and another pickoff early going to come out there onto Yo Mama there as the staggers just kind of continue. Yeah, Bald Ross going to get picked off as well, and Onra is back in the fight, but it's just Onra and Dude, the only ones left alive right now. Primal coming out from Chara. Don't know if that one's really needed. The point does get capped on the other end of the map there, but that is going to be the cap coming out. And yeah, interesting use of the Primal Rage there. Not sure how necessary it was, but does help make a statement.
It's crazy how much one swap can impact a team's ability to succeed in a fight. I mean, this Winston is looking crazy. But you know, we are at our 4th pause of the game. It wouldn't be right, CB, if we finished a map without a pause happening. It just has to happen, all right? It is going to be Yo Mama again. So down a DPS player, the defense is, and they're already trying to scramble to get back in the fight, which is rather unfortunate to have to deal with. Burlington, they've been plagued with these throughout, and it's just another thing to show that they're trying their absolute hardest to keep this one going.
Yeah, I'm not sure if all these players are like all in the same room and there's just like an Ethernet issue going on here, or if like some of these PCs need to be checked. I think maybe the IT department for Burlington is going to have to be the MVP for Kennedy Catholic, I think, for sabotaging some of these other players here. Yo Mama is already back in the matchup, though, so is going to go back to spawn again. You know, we kind of have to treat that like a player death and an ult charge reset there, and Yo Mama going back over onto the Cassidy, and now we have a couple of dueling Winstons on the high ground.
Yeah, I do like the swap to mirror the Winston. It doesn't mean you're going to get run over as much on Brissa. So, you know, you have the same ability to kind of dive on the Zen comp. We talked about how vulnerable that can be, as that Transcendence was forced out of chill just to keep them alive there. And that's the point of running that dive comp. The question is, can you keep it running without the Kiriko? The answer is likely going to be no. Yo Mama's the only one alive along with a coalescing Moira, but it's not really going to do too well. You're still pushing back in, trying to push the advantage. I believe both the supports have gone down in the meantime, and alright, 2 is all it takes to win the fight.
I'm curious as to why James decided to invest the Dragon Blade there. I feel like there were too many members of Kennedy Catholic that were already down, that there wasn't going to be enough backup try and help keep you alive for that one, and you didn't get the nano boost either, so that combo is now off the field. And yeah, James gonna go ahead and make the swap onto the Torb. We'll go ahead and say that hero swap was the reason that they invested the Dragon Blade. Yeah, you can't take it with you to the grave, so might as well go ahead and expend it. So now this nano boost gonna come out onto Chara instead.
Look at that, buys the high ground. There goes Yo Mama, perfect. Turns your sights onto the Moira. I get what you're trying to do. You can't really body block a Winston no matter how hard you try. Just not how the hero ends up working. Oh, it does actually get the other tank down though. Not the end of the world, so maintaining that high ground control. It's really just a matter of cleanup, and Lightum is on cleanup duty today. Brought out the broom, and that Death Blossom will be cleaning this one up.
Hey, they may have found Cobain just like, yeah, got forced into a very unfortunate spot there. Tried to hide and wasn't able to get out with their life there. Maybe probably could have, you know, held their breath a little longer. Tried not to sneeze because they were sussed out, and that is going to be a pretty sufficient stagger and a lot of time let off the clock for Kennedy Catholic. So Burlington-Edison, they're happy to take that, and they're going to have a lot of ults coming up here to help keep this one going. They have the Primal Rage to match Chara's. They're going to have the Kitsune Rush to try and initiate here. That should be their tool once the dive comes out here.
In theory, it's just a matter of where is this initiation coming from. And alright, clearly he's looking for an angle to jump in, but this Discord Corb is shredding them to pieces. And, you know, in the meantime, the rest of their team has been able to survive their own Primal Rage and can come back into this fight with support ultimates. Great way to change the tempo around smack dab in the middle of all of the chaos and a clean team wipe to come through.
Yeah, Burlington-Edison, they play that really well. Like I said, once the dive comes in, they're gonna go ahead and want to use that Kitsune Rush, and, you know, Chara invests that Primal Rage and jumps right into that foxhole where everybody is just waiting with that boosted up damage, or sorry, that boosted up fire rate, the reload speed, the cooldown speeds to just melt that monkey down and force the swap onto the Orisa now. And they still have a Primal, and they still have a Deadeye that they can hold.
Oh,
they don't even need it. They just
you're
click
definitely
hits.
gonna hold that now because Yo Mama, oh my goodness, I have to call Yo Mama up after this one. Tell her what you just did on the battlefield because that was amazing from the Cassidy.
Yeah, look at what Yo Mama is able to do when they actually have a stable game and the internet is working. They're not crashing. They're just clicking heads in their lane. No one can touch them. They have the Deadeye still, but didn't even need it. Almost looked like they had already casted it with how the way they were hitting those one-shots, and it doesn't stop. There's another one onto Cobain, and another one onto Side. Easiest target in the world, like skeet shooting. That Junkrat just flying like a graceful swan, getting clipped with a buckshot from the ground, and Yo Mama is absolutely on fire right now.
Wow. This person certainly has spent some time in some practice range games, but you know what? You can't do too much of the rest of your teams. It kind of cleaned up for you. So that's really just going to be it. We're down to the final 5 seconds. We were hyping Yo Mama up so much, we weren't even watching the clock. But it doesn't matter because they're still clicking. Head CB, what in the world happened to this player after the disconnect? I want to know. Do they have some sort of energy drink or something? Because this is a completely new Yo Mama, completely new Burlington-Edison that are looking to close this one out, cleaning up just this Orisa and finding their ground once again on the defense of Route 66.
That treacherous IT department that's been betraying Burlington this whole time finally had a change of heart, came back to the good side and decided, hey, let me go ahead and, you know, mess with your mouse here a little bit. Let me go ahead and, you know, fix your computer up here, get you back up to speed. There you go. Now you can go ahead and be unleashed like the beast that you are. And Yo Mama just goes absolutely insane, flicking everybody's head. I don't even think they had to use the Deadeye the entire time. Just one by one, you know, Kennedy Catholic, you know, heading on out, walk it out, not a care in the world, didn't look both ways before they crossed the street and get hit with a Mack truck courtesy of Yo Mama. One after another, like non-stop. And that staggered out like I think like maybe 2 minutes off the clock off of just that alone. And even investing all of the ults that KC had built up was not enough to withstand just the sheer brute force coming out from this Cassidy here. Sometimes, you know, that's all it takes is for one player to really, really start feeling themselves and get so much more ahead of the curve that they just simply cannot be stopped. If you are KC though, one thing you definitely have to stop is the cart, because Burlington set themselves a very, very doable win condition. Only about halfway through point B. That should be easy pickings there, especially if they do come out here with this really strong dive composition that they are looking to favor.
And this is what was working out. They struggled to get this one up and running back on Busan. Completely different thing. I don't even know what that map was at this point. Because right now, Burlington, they're going to roll out with this dive to attempt to counter this out. I think Chill going to the Moira isn't the worst decision when you're expecting the Winston. One less vulnerable target to have to worry about. But a Hanzo isn't going to fare too incredibly much better. Able to hit with a Bionate in the nick of time. But already the payload being to this first corner, forcing the players of Kennedy Catholic to play pretty far back in this choke. Anra, though, getting burned so low. Has to be careful what they're doing with their health bar, how they're managing that out in the meantime while they're doing this. And there's that dive in that's been long awaited. Baldros making sure they are coming up in the kill feed on top of it. And yeah, this is just the momentum continuing from that previous round, CB. They are hungry to win this match out, and Kennedy are still going to be struggling to find that answer.
That all starts with a really early pickoff there onto James. Baldros cleans that up as that soldier gets a little bit low and a little bit out of position, and the punish is there. And once that soldier's off the field, when the dive comes in to clean up Cobain, there's not enough damage to withstand the onslaught that is Anra. And with all the support that Anra had, Easiest kill of their life. They still have to try and get this cart into touch, and the contest will be there, and the swap does come out, but Cobain is already critically low and falls early.
You lose Cobain, I'm not going to be surprised if you lose Chara too long after. They're fighting for their life right now against a Winston, and yeah, eventually that will be kind of burned down. Anra able to control this space so incredibly well with that good old tickle cannon, well, Tesla cannon. I call it a tickle cannon because that's more fun, and it just tickles you to see it hit your opponents, but being in a trap, much less entertaining to have to look at. Eventually that second point cap will come through with, nearly 5 minutes, CB. Don't even get through the second point.
That might have been a little bit of a mistake there from Cobain. Probably thought there was a little bit more time, went to go for that sleep there, maybe a little bit of a contest, but you saw them turn right back around, and the cart does cap, and now, without that on the field, more and more staggers gonna come through, and this cart is gonna get so much cart progress for free. You see the rest of KC, they're trying to play a little bit further back so they can regroup, but if they keep bleeding members, like James might actually get caught out here as well, if they keep bleeding members, they're going to bleed time off of their own clock here. It's their own worst enemy.
It is. They're struggling to put the wheels back on the bus right now, but hey, getting Lightum while they didn't have that recall, absolutely huge from James. A good start to turn it around, but you need a lot more to come back with it. You're walking into 4 ultimates from your opponents, all of which can deny space, and you're not going to have this visor to be able to deny it. Chara has to be the saver here with this Earth Shatter, but only hits onto Yomama, who's going to stay alive with the Coalescence. All the resources pumped into the Hanzo player just to get this Dragon Strike out. Rush forwards, everything on the table for Burlington-Edison as they are coming out to say, we are the better team here today. Took it to 3 maps, but we will be the victors. In the end, taking their week 1 matchup in a 2-1 fashion.
I don't know if there's any, ski resorts or anything in Washington right now, but that was a bit of a snowball fight there towards the end. As it all kind of goes back to that early pickoff there onto James and the cleanup being there after that. And then all of the staggers where everyone was coming in desperately just trying to pump the brakes, stop the cart, put down a thumbtack under the tire so it pops a flat, just anything to stop that cart from rolling in. But they end up staggering and staggering. And all of these picks come out, and Burlington don't have to use an ultimate to win the fight, and then suddenly, they got 5 of them with the cart, the length of a Taco Bell drive-thru to go through to help finish it off, and they just pop all of them and simply win. What are you gonna do?
Yep.
You hit a big shatter, but the Coalescence is there to negate all of the follow-up damage, and then what are you gonna do when, you got a Dragon Strike and a Kitsune Rush, forcing all of that positioning, and the Coalescence is still up, getting all of that extra tick damage from the Kitsune Rush, melting down players, just turning them down, forcing them all the way back where they can't even contest the cart, lest they have to give up their lives in order to do it. Very well played there. Very, very strong punish there from Burlington. And yeah, they come out looking very strong.
Oh, this is a 3-time championship team for sure. My goodness gracious. I am looking forward to see how these matches are going to continue through the season. And you know what's even better, CP? Is that we get to see one of these every single weeks for the next 8 weeks, I believe. So be ready for some more Overwatch 2 and seeing us on the stream. But you know what? We don't just have Overwatch 2 here in the WSSEA. We still got Super Smash Bros. Coming up tomorrow at 4 p.m. PST. So make sure you mark your calendars. Come support our Super Smash Bros. Players out on the stream. But I think that is going to wrap it up for us today, CB. Pleasure to work with you once again. And we will catch you guys on the next one.
I do have one more thing to say, actually. Hold on. We didn't plug the sponsor this whole time. We almost forgot. Yeah, we want to go ahead and thank our sponsor, Seattle Built PCs, for helping us out here. I wanted to make sure we got that in. You were ready to sign it off there. Sorry to step on your toes there.
You're right. You're right. Hey, this is why it's week 1. We figure these things out now, so we are ready to go for the future. It's a pleasure to see everybody out here today. Thank you for supporting the High School Esports Association, and we'll see you next time.